Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to read the book Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. And it's a great story. It's by Candace Fleming. And then Brian Karras did the illustrations. It's a fun book. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables and gobbling them all up. But he never once tried it until this spring, said Mr. McGreely. This spring, by golly, I am going to plant a garden. So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. Yum, yum, yummy, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh vegetables. Ooh, and who's watching his garden? But one night, when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pet! Muncha, muncha, muncha. Oh no, they're eating Mr. McGreely's vegetables. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. There, he declared, no bunny can get into my garden now. And who's watching? The bunnies. And the sun went down and the moon came up. Tippy, 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 pat. Spring hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. They got over the fence. The next morning, Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves, his gnawed sprouts. He was really angry, so he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wired fence all around his vegetable garden. He huffed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. Ooh, he built a big, big fence. Let's see if they get in. And the sun went down and the moon came up and there's Mr. McGreely dreaming of carrots. Tippy, 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 pat. Dig, scramble, scratch, scratch, scratch. Spring hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Oh, they got in again. Uh-oh. How do you think Mr. McGreely's feeling now? The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. Oh, look at him. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall, behind the small wired fence, all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those pufftails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. What do you think a deep, wet trench is, boys and girls? Look at a deep, wet trench is water. He put water around it so they couldn't get to his vegetables. Let's see. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 pat, dive, paddle, splash, splash, splash. Dig, scrabble, scratch, scratch, scratch. Spring, hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. They got in again. So how do you think Mr. McGreely's going to feel now? The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was, look at the size of that word, furious! With an exclamation point. He was furious. He's really mad. So he hammered and he blacked. He sawed and he stacked. Drilled and he filled and he tapped and he lacked. And he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it. They can't get under it. They can't get over it. Nobody, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. That is enormous. And that's really huge. Oh my goodness. Let's see what happens. And the sun went down and the moon came up and tippy, 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 stop! The 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them. And tippy, 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 pat, the bunnies hopped away. so they couldn't get in. It stopped them finally. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was, what's that word, boys and girls? Happy. He's all happy because the bunnies didn't get his vegetables. Oh, look at, he's doing a dance. I beat the bunnies, he whooped, and he did a wiggly jiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. McGreely, at last. Smacking his lips, he picked and he pulled up lettuce, carrots, and peas and tomatoes. And with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. Uh-oh. Did you see what was happening here, boys and girls? What are the bunnies doing? And then what's going on here? Look at there. What's going to happen when he reaches in his basket for something yummy? Uh-oh. Muncha, muncha, muncha. The bunnies are in his basket and they're eating all his vegetables again. Uh-oh. So, guess what Mr. McGreely decided to do? Share with the bunnies. If you can't beat them, you got to join them, I guess. Have a good day, boys and girls. And check out their activity that's next.